Yes, thank you, allow me. Um, all right. So tonight we're going to be talking through requirement gathering and documentation, and it's going to be. I just put some slides together because it's going to be more of a practical, but I just have to give you guys a background. So it's elicitation. So when you hear the word elicitation, what comes to your mind? Like, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Like, you've never, you are not a business analyst, but you hear the word elicitation, what comes to mind? Anybody wants to give it a try?
Good evening, everyone. I think what comes to my mind is gathering of information.
Gathering of information, yeah. Thank you very much. Who was that? Sorry, I'm sharing my screen so I can't see who was speaking.
So my name is Celia.
What's that? Sorry.
Celia.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, so basically, elicitation is when you hear the word elicitation in the BA word, it means it has to do with us gathering requirements. Like we want to get the requirement for the project. So a project has been presented to us and we want to get requirements. So we say we are eliciting requirements, we are conducting elicitation. So yeah, it's the same as requirement gathering. So the few things that we're going to go through in this class is the definition of requirement, the stages. I mean, we don't really need this, but yeah, what is requirement gathering? What is it? So when we hear requirement gathering, is a process of determining what your project needs to achieve and what needs to be created to make that happen. So um, when a project is presented to us as business analysts, I just want to say that we are the bridge between the business and the development team. I mean, since yesterday, you guys have been hearing a lot about the development team because Moji and allowed me to did a great job explaining sprint planning and daily stand up and estimation and all of those because we when it, we are I mean when a project is presented, we speak with the business stakeholder, and then we also speak with the develop development teams, and they are the stakeholder as well. So we are the guys in the middle that make the project successful. The dev guys don't speak the language of the business, and the business doesn't speak the language of the dev guys. So we are the guys that understand both languages, and we are the ones to make sure that everybody gets the picture of the project. So what do? We go to the business and we want to find out, okay, so talk me through what you want. What solution do you need? Or tell me what this project is about. So they come to you and they say, oh, I want you to design a rice cooker. Weird example, but I want to design a rice cooker, and this is how I want this rice cooker to look like. And I want the rice cooker to cut down cooking time to 3 minutes from 20 minutes. And I want it to have the shape of a pot. I want it to have a button where you can start. I want it to use strictly electricity and all of those. So these are requirements. These are these are the things, these are specifications that the business needs. Now, your job as a business analyst in that process is to also understand from their standpoint if they really need a rice cooker. Is this the right solution at the moment? Or okay, let me be more realistic or bring it home to a project like an IT project. And for instance, a company is using, okay, I'll be calling people's names so that it makes sense. So Bukola now, she's a stakeholder, she's a business stakeholder, right? And then our company has been using the manual process, like they're using Excel sheets to capture the shift of people and their time slots, the time when they're signing. And you can imagine that they have 1,000 staff, and all the staff are using a manual process. Like they have to enter their time sheets in Excel, and every single day they come to shift. You can imagine how tedious, and it's taking out time of productivity. So Bukola comes to, I'm going to be calling people's names, sorry. Bukola comes to Dele Phillips and says, Dele Phillips, I realized that we're business analysts, and what's happening in my company is that I have 1,000 staff, and they all enter the time slots in Excel, and I see that it takes away time for productivity. Now I want to move it to, I want to make it automated. I don't like the fact that it's tedious for my staff, and I also want to make things easier for my staff. So the caller comes with that requirement. So Dele Phillips is like, okay. I mean, you don't need, you will say to a stakeholder, but yeah, just um you are like, okay, so what is the, like, you want to start finding out from them, okay, productivity issue, all right. And then you've done your research, you've seen, you as a business analyst, you provide the best solution. Now they've told you about their problem, they've told you their pain points, which we'll get to later. They've told you their pain points, that okay, this is what is the issue, this is what we are facing, is making us lose productivity time. It's tedious for the staff are not happy, it's a really slow process, it's tedious, and all of those. Now, these are the pain points. Your job as a business analyst is to look at those pain points and provide the most suitable solution for them. What's the best solution? And that's why, as a business analyst, you don't joke with research. You have to do a lot of research for you to understand the best solution when you are gathering requirements. Of course, you don't lead them on, but you also, at the same time, you also have to come correct to that meeting. Like, you need to understand, okay, now that they've told you their pain point, you must have research on different suitable solutions before coming. Yeah. So in a nutshell, requirement gathering is the process of determining what the project needs to achieve and what needs to be created to make that happen. So we have some requirement gathering process. The first is identify the relevant stakeholder. This is very, very important, because when we say stakeholders, there are many stakeholders. A user is a stakeholder. The business, like, there are several people in the business, the stakeholder, the staff of the business are stakeholders. Excuse me, developers are stakeholders. You are a stakeholder in the business. So stakeholders are people that make things happen. They're the ones that they are important to that project. They make things happen for the project, and they are very important to the project. So they could either be end users, or the developers, or the business. So you need to identify who is the most relevant to this project. Who can give me the requirement I need? Who can tell me what the problem is? Who can tell me where this project is leading to? So you need to identify the relevant stakeholders. Number two is to establish the project goals and objective. What is the goal of this project? What are we trying to achieve by doing this project? Why are we doing this project? So what's the end goal of doing this project? Elicit requirements from stakeholders. So now that you've done this, so you've identified, then you need to start asking questions. Why is this solution needed? What is this solution going to be used for? How valuable is this solution? What value are we going to get out of it? So you begin to ask the question, okay, what do you want? What's your specification? What's the color of the home page? What's the color you want for the logo? How do you want the logo to be designed? So is it going to be, are you thinking about a website that is friendly to colorblind people, or you don't really care? So on the what do you, what's the how do you want the security of this website? Should it be extremely secured, or everybody can come? How many persons do you want to use this website? They are little questions, but they are important, because if you don't ask this question earlier on in the project and you deliver, it's going to backfire on you. So these are the questions that go on in Elicitation. But yeah, you can always design your question. It's not limited to what I'm saying, but yeah, these are so many questions. There are so many questions you can ask during elicitation. So when you elicit requirements, it's important for you to document the requirements. Reason being that you need to cover your own, you need to cover yourself. And also, if you don't document, you might forget, because you still have to go back to the stakeholder and confirm that, is this what you really said you wanted? Before you then go and interpret it into user stories and acceptance criteria for the developers to develop and test. So it's important for you to document. If you cannot write, record is very important as a business analyst, because there's so much that is going to go on in a meeting with a stakeholder, and you need to be very sure, because the entire project rests on your shoulder. It rests on you, and any mistake will cause a lot of issues. It will cost a lot. It might cost the business more spending than they bargain for. And yeah, so it's very important. And once you've documented your requirement, go back to your stakeholders and confirm and say, okay, is this what you said you wanted? Is this what you want? Or this is what I've written down? Is this really what you said? And the stakeholder might say, oh no, I mentioned blue, you wrote red. Oh, I mentioned 17 characters. I mentioned 17 characters. You wrote 12. So those are the things that you really want to ensure that you have covered. So as soon as they're able to sign it off, it's no longer on you. Now it's on the stakeholder to say, oh, but you signed it off when I requested, when I showed you these requirements and all of that. So the next thing is to prioritize. Wumi was talking about Moscow yesterday. As a business analyst, you and Moscow are very good friends. You guys are best friends, because with Moscow, it helps you prioritize your requirements. Stakeholders, we have several requirements. We have several, but for every sprint, there are requirements that are must-haves. There are requirements that are should have. There are requirements that could have, and there are requirements that won't have for this sprint. We'll have it in future. So prioritizing your requirements helps you know the deliverable for each sprint, because every sprint has a deliverable. So yeah. Then lastly, never make assumptions. As a business analyst, please do not ever assume that this is what my stakeholder is referring to. Ask questions, make clarifications is very, very important, very, very important, because if anything goes wrong, it's coming back to you. I'm emphasizing this because you are the carrier of the project. In a situation whereby you have a product owner, and even if you have a product owner, yeah, the product owner relates with the business and come back to you and tell you this is what the business wants. But at the same time, never assume that this is what my product owner is saying. Ask questions, make clarification so that you capture the right thing for the development team. All right. Okay, so I put an illustration here, and if you can see, so how the customer explained the project. This is how the project leader understood the project, how the engineer designed it, how the product programmer wrote it, how the sales executive described it, how the project was documented, what operations installed, how the customer was billed, how the help desk supported, what the customer really needed. So can you see like the difference from the difference from of all these pictures? This is why assumption is very dangerous. So this is what the customer needed at the end of the day, but see how the customer described it or explained it. And that's why you need to ask a lot of questions in your elicitation. Like ask them questions. Some clients, they know what they want, but they don't know how to articulate it. So that's where your artifact comes in, which we'll get to probably later this week or next week. Okay, so we have different stages of requirement gathering. Yeah, I already mentioned pain points. Understand the pain point behind the requirement. What is pain point? Pain point is what the problem is. You're trying to ascertain what is the problem, what is the issue, why are we doing this project? What's the why behind this project? What is not satisfactory? Why do we want to change? Why do we want to bring about change? Because as a business analyst, you are a change agent. When you come to an organization, you are bringing change. And that's why sometimes in an organization, they don't like you because you are bringing change. And change is not well received anywhere. Is the hardest thing. Can everyone still hear me okay? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I just wanted to be sure because I'm sharing my screen so again. So change is not always well received, and that's why it's important for you to understand what's the pain, what's the issue, why are we bringing change? Is it necessary? Is this change necessary at this time? Or it isn't. So it's very, very important for you to understand. Then number 2, eliminate language ambiguity. Ensure that it's simple, like, okay, now you've understood the pain point, you've understood why we want to do this. Ensure that if you know you are not talking to a non-tech person, use non-tech language. If you know, like, make it simple. Allow your communication to be simple so that people can understand what you're trying to pass along. It's very, very important so that at the end of the day, you are able to get out the best, like the most out of the stakeholder you're speaking to. Identify corner cases. So what are the hidden scenarios? What are the scenarios so what's the worst case? There is the happy part. So the happy part is, okay, everything goes well. We arrive at this. Okay, in a situation whereby everything doesn't go well, what do we do? How can we go about it? Okay, Bukola has told delay that. Okay, I want to move from the manual process to the automation process. That's the happy part. So we have to think about cases whereby, okay, what if we migrate and something goes wrong with the system? What do we do? Or like just think about cases, worst case scenarios, and identify it so that you can make up for it. Like you can factor that into the solution that you are providing. So you think about scenarios, different scenarios that can happen with a particular feature that you're trying to create, and find solutions for them before you create them. And then now that you've identified the scenario, now you have to write your user stories. So write your user story. Your user story is what you write for the development team. So you write your user story and acceptance criteria, where you are answering the question of who, what, and why. Who is the user? Why are they using? Who, what are they using it for, and why are they using it? So we'll go through user stories and acceptance criteria in the long run. All right, and then create a definition of done. So what is your definition of done? What makes your story done? Like once you have written a user story as a business analyst, what makes your story done? I've covered all the scenarios that could happen. I've listed out all the cases. Okay, the example yesterday for the sprint planning demo, that story did not meet the definition of done. Even for a BA, it wasn't complete because we didn't capture all the things that were supposed to be on that form. So if a tester is testing, there is what are they supposed to view? Number two, for the developer, how is he supposed to create the form? We were not explicit. So we have to be detailed. So for a definition of run, and then what artifact are you attaching? Like your wireframe now, you might not, it depends on what your team agrees to be definition of done. If your team says that definition of done of every story must be that there must be a wireframe and a process map. If we create a story, a product backlog item, without attaching those two artifacts, then that particular product backlog item will not be agreed to as done. I mean, they'll say this story is not done. It's not done yet. So yeah, so those are the stages of requirements gathering. So we have elicitation techniques. The first one is research. Yeah, like I said, as a business analyst, you have to do your research. You really have to do your research so that you can understand solutions that you can come up with. Also understand what the project is about. Like there are so many research you can do. You can do comparative market analysis, you can do competitive market analysis, SWOT analysis. I mean, of each of the products, because there's no product that is completely new that there is no similarity of it. Oh, if you are working on an LMS project, there's Udemy, there are so many. There's Coursera, there is Google. I know Google has a training platform. Yeah, so there are so many of them that you can use for comparing your project. So definitely the person that you are going to will have told you at least something about the project. Oh, this project is this. This is what this project is about. So there are so many similar projects out there to yours. It might not be the same. So comparative market analysis is just doing, okay, you are trying to see all the, like, that's also, you can use it to do your get the strength, weaknesses, opportunity, threats of, like, do an entire SWOT analysis when you're doing comparative market analysis, and you're trying to see how the product, how the other product is doing in the market, who are the users, what are they using it for, how this new product that, so it helps you with, when you are going to the stakeholders with solution, like you are able to see how the other product is doing in the market, who is using it, who are the users, how is it doing, okay, what's the statistics of persons that is using it, what's the reach, and all of that. So research is very, very important as a business analyst. Observation is, so the example of the project that I was talking about, that Bukola had suggested to Dele. So Dele goes to Bukola's company and then stays there for one day and see how the users or the staff are using this particular sheet. It could either stay and just observe quietly, or you could ask questions as it's observing and say, oh, okay, what is this? Oh, okay, so, oh, this is how you do it. Type, oh, okay. Yeah, so you are seeing how the users are working firsthand, the users of the product. Then interview. This is one of the most common elicitation technique because it's one-on-one, mostly. It's not always more than two persons. But yeah, interview is always one-on-one. It's either one-on-one or with two persons, like two stakeholders, or if it's more than two, it's already becoming too many. So you are speaking to the stakeholder one-on-one, trying to understand the requirements. You're trying to gather requirement from a stakeholder. In Blue Sky, you'll be using this interview technique a lot because your stakeholders are not many. You'll be dealing with a product owner. So you have to gather requirement from this stakeholder. So using interview technique. Yeah, this is a really good technique because it's easier, especially if it's in person. You are able to see the person's body language, or if it's on a video call, you can see how the person is responding, because communication is not only by words, also body language, actions, and you can easily catch that and know how to rephrase a question, or know what to say, or know when to chip in a joke and all of that. So yeah, interview technique is one of the most common. Then we have workshop. So workshop is always used for stakeholders that are many. So you have several stakeholders and they are all important to this project. If you want to go through one-on-one interview, it's going to take forever before you can go through them. So you have all of them in a room, about 10 or 15 of them, and then you are eliciting requirement from them. You could either use a whiteboard and show a presentation, you can speak to them, or ensure that you have someone taking notes if you're the one asking the question. You have someone taking notes, or you can ask if you can record, and always take that permission and ask, oh, can I record? Because it's important. Some people are wary of you recording them. So yeah, that's how workshop works. I mean, you all are in a big room and you're asking questions about the project and they are giving you their responses. Prototyping. Prototyping is basically showing a sample of how the end product will look like. So you can do that using wireframe, process map, use case diagram to show a relationship between the user and the system, or a skeletal view of how the system will work at the end of the day, or how the system will look like, what it will look like at the end of the day. So it's not necessarily, because remember, you're not a UX designer, you are not a product designer. So you just draw skeleton. You can either use Sketch, use Balsamic, you can use Miro, you can use Visio. There are so many tools that you can use to create prototyping. I don't know if anybody has any question at this point, so I'm not just talking away. If you have any question, just raise your hand. Okay, I think there are no questions. Okay. All right, so documentation.
Well, people are raising their hands actually.
Okay, I didn't see.
So it's fine, don't worry, I'll call them. Salome, do you want to go?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. My question is, in the real world, which of the process comes first? Is it that the PO will give you the project you want to work on and allow you to go and make research, or you have to have an idea of all the projects, like the technical project, before you meet the PO? How does it work? Thank you.
All right, so in the real world, you might not have a product owner, and you might have. So you might be dealing with the business directly without the stakeholder. But yeah, so how it works is you have your very first meeting, and then they are saying, oh, this is the project, or an email has been sent out. Maybe if you have a project manager, so a project manager will tell you, oh, a project is coming, and this is what the project is about. Like, for example, at my workplace, there was a project that was coming on board, and we informed, oh, the cargo products, and this is the similar product to it that we have. And yeah, so if they already give you, okay, this is the project that is coming on board, you can easily make a research and say, it's just for you to have an idea, so that when you go, the reason for this is, when you go to that meeting, you don't want to be blank. You don't just want to just sit there and just be looking, because sometimes you will meet some stakeholders that they know what they want, but they are not able to articulate it properly. And it can be frustrating for you, because you're like, what exactly do you want? Especially when you are starting out. So it's always good to, if you have an idea of the project, do your research. If you don't have an idea of the project and that's your first meeting, you can still do your research in that meeting, because of course Google is our friend, except you are meeting physically. And then yeah, you can get you get on that first meeting, you ask questions, because once they tell you, it will give you an idea of the right questions to ask, because of course you're a business analyst and you've been doing this for a while. But yeah, if it's an online meeting, you can easily go to Google and find out similar products to that particular product, and then it will help you with questions to ask. Have I answered your question, Salome?
Yeah, yes. But in a situation where the PO knows what he wants but can't express it fully, how do you go about it? Can an illustration work in this situation? Like getting an illustration and reconfirming with them if it's actually what they want also.
Yes, yeah, that's where your prototyping comes in, and that's why it would be nice for you to have a wireframe. If you have one, it will just help you. And then, so the first thing, you need to really understand who your stakeholder is, so that you can know how to elicit requirements from them. So yeah, if you know the kind of stakeholder that you have, it will help you know the kind of elicitation technique to use. Not technique, but like even if you are doing interview, one-on-one interview with them, and realize that this person cannot really articulate what they want, so you are using visuals, it will help you get the most, because they are like, oh yeah, this is it. Okay, move this logo to this left hand side, or move this to the right hand side. Oh, I want this below. You get, because you are showing them an illustration or an artifact. So it's called prototyping anyway. So yeah, you are showing them an artifact that is a skeletal view of what the website would look like. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Yeah. Who is my next person? Okay, I don't know how these hands were raised. Sorry, but I'm just going to call as I see them. Ogochuku.
The next person is Ogochuku, so sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my question is still on the product owner, because you said from the beginning that you're a product owner and also a business analyst. So I'm actually new on this course. So I want you to throw a little bit light on the product owner. Is it a course on its own? Or, as you said, they are part of the stakeholder, and how does the product owner comes out, as in what do they bring, or you as a product owner, is it that you bring your requirements, or I just want you to throw light on it.
Okay, sure, that's all right. So I don't know. For me, I did not learn product owner on its own. So as a business analyst, a proxy product owner, so you can always stand in for your product owner, because we do almost the same thing, but where it differs. So according to Scrum Guide, a product owner manages the board, like the backlog, not the board. Apologies. Manages the backlog. And so what a product owner does in a situation where there's a product owner and a business analyst on a particular project, so the product owner meets directly with the business stakeholders, comes back to the team, talk to the business analyst and say, okay, this is what the business wants. This is how I want you to prioritize it. So it's the product owner that will prioritize the backlog and say, okay, this is what I want for this sprint. Okay, for instance, the product owner says, okay, on this project, the features that we are developing are homepage banner, login, sign up. I want the footer, I want the features, I want a side navigation panel that has these 10 features or whatever. And then I want users to be able to shop on this website. I want them to be able to take a course on this website. I want them to be able to find recordings and play these recordings and all of that. So now your product owner has given you all those requirements, and then it says, okay, so for this sprint, I want you to do the homepage banner, the login. I want you to add the logo. I want to have the sign up. I want to have the footer as well as the header for this particular sprint, and I want I want all of this for this sprint. So what the product owner is doing is prioritizing what he wants for a particular sprint. Also, the product owner does the roadmap for the project, for the entire project, and says, okay, this is a roadmap for this project. The product owner also is in charge of when it's time for release, like facilitating how the release will be. But the product owner and the business analyst work really closely together. In a situation whereby there is no business analyst on a project, the product owner also writes the user stories and the acceptance criteria, manages the backlog, ensures that the backlog is good, is looking good, facilitates release, creates, so does everything the business analyst is doing. Anyways, for some extras with like meeting with business stakeholders regularly, presenting back to business stakeholders where the business is, where the project is at. And yeah, so that's what the product owner does. For product owners and business analysts do almost the same thing, just a little difference, very tiny. And that's why every business analyst is a proxy product owner. You're a product owner in the making. You can be a product owner, you can stand in for your product owner. If your product owner is not around, the business looks to you to take charge. If that makes sense.
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The next person is Adegboyega.
Yeah, thank you very much. I have two questions. The first one is let
Hope
me.
it's not hard.
You shouldn't be. You shouldn't be. I know you are very capable.
Okay.
Yeah, the first one is, let me take you back to the example you gave, like then the PO, the product owner, they were manually entering data using Excel, and they got tired of it and they wanted something automated, and and they approached a BA for the beginning of the project, and they wanted a situation where they will have an automated thing. And the project owner is like telling you,
it's not the project owner, it's actually the client, like the customer, not the project owner.
the customer. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And so what's the difference between the project owner and the customer? The project owner should be the Scrum Master.
No. So product owner, you mean?
The product, yes.
Yeah.
Product owner. Sorry,
yeah.
product owner.
So yeah, we might have a business stakeholder that is not the product owner. So the product owner is necessarily part of the team most of the time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So is part of your team, like it's part of the Scrum team.
Oh, okay.
The business stakeholders are not part of the Scrum team.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me use the business stakeholders.
Yeah.
Okay. So so they come up with you. They wanted an automated thing, and they were saying, they were like explaining something. If you can use Power Automate to do some little automation, and then at the same time you can even go higher. So if the business stakeholders are looking at something like what you can use Power Automate to do, and you propose an higher and a more robust solution for them, so it means you want to kind of change their mindset on what they want. The first question is it possible, is it professional for a BA to do something like that? Then the second question has to
Can I answer your first question so that I don't forget?
Okay, go ahead.
So
sorry, Bolu, before you answer, hold your thoughts. Sorry. Guys, you have 8 more minutes. Bolu is going to run through still the remaining part of our slides and answer your questions. So keep your questions as short as possible. So she'll give you short and straight to the point answer. Continue, Bolu.
Okay. So the answer is yes. Very, very correct. Like, as a business analyst, that is why you are there. You are supposed to guide the business to the best solution. Do you understand? So your essence of being in the essence of, like I mentioned, you are a change agent. So now the onus is on you to convince them that this solution I'm giving you, yes, Power Automate might be a quick fix, But here are the disadvantage in future. Now we are going to spend more money in future if we use this. However, if I give you this other solution, it's going to, yeah, it might be more expensive, but here are the advantage in future. We wouldn't have security issues, we wouldn't have this, and which business doesn't want? And then if the business insists and say they want power automate, here's now you have to agree, because the point of you being a business analyst is that you are supposed to guide them to the best solution, not enforce. Do you understand? So you are not enforcing anything on them. You make suggestive solutions and say, oh, this is what I believe. And you come with facts and figures. Like, you don't just say, oh, this is what is. So you give them the best solution with the right facts and figures that they need to get the best solution.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Yeah.
For the second question.
Yeah. For the second question, part of the requirement, the very first one you talked about researches.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it caught my attention when you mentioned something on the SWOT analysis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because currently I'm doing something in school right now that talked about SWOT, talked about Potter's 5 forces, I talked about PESTO. Actually, those are the reason why I decided to go for BA. So is all those ones, the Potter's 5 forces and the PESTO, are they part of the the research that you are going to, because from the research, you have to tell them about the internal and the external forces that could happen if this for a particular for a particular product. You have to tell them the internal and the external forces which they might likely need to face and how to resolve it. I don't know if all those ones will be part of the research. Thanks.
Yeah, your research is not limited, to be honest. So go as far and wide as you can go. That's the simplest answer I can give you. Do you understand? So like, do SWOT analysis, do PESTO, do everything that you think that will help the business. So your research is not limited. Your research is not like, oh, this is the only research a business analyst can do. No, when you're doing research, you do it wide. You go as wide as you can go and cover every mishap that can come. And that's what I was saying, talking about scenarios what can go wrong. You have to factor that in as a business analyst when you are providing solutions as well. So everything that you think that will be of value to the business, go as wide as possible. Yeah, that's the simple answer.
It's fine. Thanks.
You're welcome. Okay, are there still more people, or should I just go through the mini slide and then?
Sorry, Bolo. This is Titi Lola. I just want to make a suggestion. I think it would be nice for them to listen to you first, so that they will gather all their facts, then ask questions afterwards. Because if not, they'll be cutting you, and people will be missing out on a lot that they can gain from you. So asking answer questions at the end will be much more valuable than cutting you, and then they're missing out on a lot.
Thank you. Yeah, I already took them a lot about, so I didn't want to just be talking, and I want to ensure that they understood the first part of the presentation. Thank you, too. All right, yeah, so this is documentation. Yeah, so we have several documentations that we use for gathering requirements. And the first one is requirement numbering. So of course, you can number your requirements on, maybe have an Excel sheet, document the requirement and say, okay, this is requirement 001, requirement 002, or however you want to number it. So, but it's just your way of capturing, excuse me, your requirements. Another is user story. So on Azure DevOps, we have our epic features and product backlog items. which I'll be showing you later on as we go along what to do with them. So under our PBI, we have user story and acceptance criteria. The same in Jira, we have where you can write your user story and your acceptance criteria. So what are these? So when you have gathered your requirements, like I said, you are the bridge between the business and the dev guys. So what then happens is that you have to translate the business requirements into something close to a dev language. It's in English, but the way you write it, the way you capture it. So as a user, I want to, because there's a way you capture it so this is the requirement that you've been given, the raw requirement, and then now you are translating, you are capturing it as a user story. And acceptance criteria is the detail of the user story. So user story is like, I always explain it as user story is the high level, while acceptance criteria is the low level. So it goes, we write in blue sky, we write acceptance criteria in Gherkin syntax. And what is Gherkin syntax? Simple. The simplest form is given, when, then. So given, when, and then. So your given is the precondition. Your when is the, your given is the precondition. Your when is the condition, and your then is the result. So precondition, condition, and result. So your given is, you are saying, okay, given I am a user on wherever, or given that I navigate to whatever. So this is the precondition. When I do this, this is the result I must get. So that's the, like, in a very layman terms, we are still going to go through writing user stories and acceptance criteria. I hope that video is playing on the Prep Major website, so you can watch it, and then the next time we're having that, we're just going to practical. Yeah, and then you have your process map. Process map is also a way to document your requirements, because you have your, it's either you do a swim lane or you do a user journey, a user flow, however the case may be. So you capture all those requirements in a process map and then present it back to your stakeholders, and your stakeholder can use that rather than a very voluminous document. Your stakeholders can use that to say, okay, oh, so let me just quickly wrap up this very quickly. Yeah, so can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll just quickly run through. Yeah, so wireframe as well. I've mentioned wireframe in .9. Is also used because you can always interpret your requirements using visuals, and we have requirements catalog. Yeah. So yeah, I just put together some questions, very few questions that you can use as a guide for your requirement gathering. So these are the questions. What do I know about this feature? Or what assumption am I making about this that I need to confirm? What does this feature need? What is the end result of doing this? What are the pieces of this feature? What needs to happen next? What must happen before? So these are questions that you can use as a guide. Yeah, so that's the end of the presentation, really. So that's, in a nutshell, requirement gathering and documentation. Yeah, so any final questions? Kingsley. Hi, Kingsley, you have your hands up.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was a very wonderful presentation. I have question. I have about.
You're sounding far. Can you kind of come closer? Sorry.
So, can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's a bit better. Yeah.
Right. So I have about 3 questions, and I'm going to try and make them. They're all related. So,
Okay.
so um,
Is it just me or is breaking up? Can anyone else hear him? He's
No, he's breaking up. He's breaking up. We can't hear
He's
him.
breaking up. I can't hear him.
okay. I wanted to be sure it wasn't me. Kingsley, you are breaking up.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now I can hear you.
All right. So when you have a product owner
Yeah.
who is a bit difficult, who is difficult and kind of denies what he or she agrees, had already accepted, how do you prove that? Especially if maybe most the agreement was kind of verbal and there was no recording. That's one.
That's a very good question. Wait, let me answer that so that I don't forget. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. So never do verbal sign off. Never. Don't do it. So it's either they sign off via email so that you can pull it up, or you present a document which they might never read, and then they sign off on that document. You send it via email, they sign off and say, okay, it's fine by me. And you have it in your email. So the next time you can pull up that and say, oh, you signed this off, this was what you wrote, this is the email you wrote, or you have their signature on the paper, but never do verbal sign off. It will come back to bite you. Yeah.
Beautiful. All right. Thank you. So the other question is, when does a BA becomes a PO? And how do you manage conflict of interests from a BA's role, between a BA's role and the PO's role? So if I am a PO and I'm a BA, if I'm a BA and I become a PO, how do you manage the conflict of interest? Like, so what I meant is, I am not the one telling myself, discussing myself, maybe telling myself I am the BA and I am the PO. I'm telling myself what I want and I am writing the acceptance criteria and the requirements. How do I manage that level of discipline to say I have to do my work, separate myself from, the PO, do my work as a BA, and also do my work as a PO, and also me doing the same at the BA, doing the work that the PO really wants me to do, being that I'm the same thing. So that's why I call it conflict of interest.
Yeah, another interesting question. It might happen and it might not. So in a situation where it happens, a PO and a BA does almost the same thing. So writing user stories and acceptance criteria is not going to cause any issues for you. The only part is that you are taking on extra work of doing the roadmap, of having a lot of meetings with stakeholders and like meeting with senior people. And in a situation whereby you don't have a PO, because at my workplace right now, I don't have a specific PO. So I meet with all the top guys as stakeholders and I have meetings with them. So it might never really happen that you'll be conflicted with yourself, except if they are saying that you have a BA, you were once a BA, and now you are a PO, and then you are mindful of not entering the role of the BA and doing the job of the BA for them. So yeah, that's where you have to learn the discipline of saying, okay, I'm just giving the requirements for the business analyst to write it and just separating myself from this. You get, of course, as a PO, you also be monitoring the backlog and saying, okay, this is where the priority is at, or giving out the priority for the business analyst and saying, okay, this is the priority. Yeah, maybe because you've once been a business analyst, you might want to quickly do the job, maybe when the BA is lacking. And that's now a personal thing of learning to say, okay, this is where I sit right now, and I'm just going to allow the BA do their job, because we are learning leadership skills and saying, okay, do you understand what I mean? For you being a PO and a BA on a project, you will not be conflicted because you guys do the same thing anyways.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think you didn't answer the second one. That at what point do I become the PO?
A PO, that's up to you and your job. To be honest, that's up to you and your job. There's no specific time that you say, oh, now I'm going to be a PO. No, like it depends on where you're working. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, it depends on where you're working, and if they see that you have the capacity to step into that role, maybe a project comes on board and they say, oh, who can be the PO? Kingsley. Okay, I think Kingsley can be the product owner because Kingsley has become an SME on this project, and we feel like it will be the suitable product owner for this job. It depends on your work. So there's no specific time there's no time slot to say, oh, okay, this is when you become a PO.
All right. Thank you. SMA. Said.
SME. Oh, subject matter expert. Sorry, apologies. Sorry. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. So we have 6 minutes. I see that Ade, Boyega, and Larry have their hands up. So we'll just take them quickly, and then before we are ticked out again. Yeah, very quickly.
Okay, thank you. Let me talk about timing now. Let me say professionally, the time frame is the BA expected to come up with a prototype? And if you have so many stakeholders and you try to, bring up a workshop to know, to have their take on the prototype, and maybe let's assume you are given like 1 week to come up with your work, and you're trying to give them the prototype and they keep on rejecting it. For how long do you think they can reject and make for it not to affect the BA's time of delivery?
That's a very, very tricky one. I think that it's dependent on the stakeholders that you're speaking with. And if they say they're rejecting it, you need to find out why. So if they're rejecting it, you don't just accept and say, okay, you rejected it, I'm going. Why? Why are they rejecting it? What's the issue? What's the problem to be fixed? What do you want corrected? And ensure that you're taking on that correction so that your work is not taken. But if you see that you're just being very difficult, you might need to involve and you've tried everything to convince them, you might need to involve your line manager and say, okay, here is the thing, I'm having a lot of difficulty with these guys. Is it possible for you to help me step in? And if your line manager say, oh, this prototype is good enough, I don't know why they are rejecting it, maybe they are just being difficult. Yeah, your line manager might be able to help you with that. If that makes sense. But I can't say that this is the timeline that they'll stop rejecting it. These are stakeholders, they know what they want. I hope you are taking their feedback, and I hope that you are doing what they want and you're asking questions, because as a business analyst, you need to ask questions. I hope I answered your question. I want to take Larry before we are kicked out.
Yeah, it's fine. Thanks.
All right. Larry.
Oh, okay. So that I don't take us back, I think you answered one of my questions, but I'd like to just confirm. Is it safe to say that if you get a role for a product owner, for example, you can apply as a business analyst?
Yes, please. Yes, please. Apply for it.
Oh,
please
great.
do apply for it. Don't limit yourself and say, oh, it's too big. No, it's not. You do the same thing, basically. We do the same thing. The only difference is roadmap, and you will learn roadmap here. I mean, there's a video on roadmap on up already. So Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope this was very, very useful for us tonight. Yeah, very soon we'll be kicked out back to the main class. So BAs, you will start eliciting requirements from tomorrow. And I hope you guys are prepared for it. All right. Have a good night, everyone.